Ugh. Oh, it just continues. I don't know what's wrong with them. You think they would get it together, but they don't. And I don't know why the Maple Leafs can't get this road trip in order. Oh, anyway, everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Ryan from Seaway Sports Lounge, and tonight this is another edition of Leafs Timeout. So, in this episode, we're going to be talking a little bit of the Leaf news of the week. We're going to go over a possible deal they could have landed that I heard on broadcast tonight with the Los Angeles game. And then after that, I'm going to go through the road trip. I'm also going to go through the game that they just played against the Kings. And of course, the takeaways that I have on this road trip so far. So, with that, let's just get right into it. So the Leaf news we're talking about today for this week is that Muzzin was placed on LTIR, which means now his money has been opened up. He has $5.625 million. That money now is available for them to use if they so choose to use it. The only thing is that if he comes back, then that money has to be reinstated. So I think what they're going to be doing is waiting to see if he's capable of coming back, if he's able to come back at all this year. I don't think he will be. That's my opinion, my gut instinct, that I think he's just too many injuries he's had. This is his third largest injury in the last year. I mean, with his concussions last year and now his neck. Honestly, I don't see it happening, but that's just me. November is, I guess they peg late November as a possible return date, but time will tell. Right now, the Maple Leafs currently have 4 players that are on LTIR for 12.4 million available. One of them is Liljegren. Obviously, he will be returning next week, according to what I heard. So that's good news. The Maple Leafs all need all the help they can on their defense right now. And with all the call-ups that they have right now before Liljegren is around 6.6 million left. So if all goes according to plan and this cap money can be available all year, I have a feeling they would probably make a deal, but we'll have to see. They'll obviously have no choice but to move players out because at the current moment, they are actually at 50 players maximum already. So they're obviously going to have players out to move in type thing to make it work. So apparently, according to what I was watching tonight, I guess the Leafs were involved with trying to land Ethan Bear from Carolina Hurricanes. They haven't had any luck getting this guy into the lineup. Anyway, I guess the Vancouver Canucks were able to do that, but apparently the Leafs didn't want to pass up on one of their draft picks. Now, Maple Leafs don't have too many draft picks currently. I think they only have about 4 or 5 remaining, which means they would probably have to give up another one. So the Leafs just don't have the picks to give, and it would be probably players or picks in 2 years from now that they'll have to offer. But anyway, so they were trying to land Ethan Bear. Apparently, they couldn't do it. Fortunately, that didn't work out. I don't know much about Ethan Bear. I did watch a few Edmonton games when he was out there. He seemed to be a decent defenseman, but I have a feeling he's going to be another 5, 6, 7 defenseman, possibly. But I'm just making a statement here. I don't really know. Anyway, we'll see what happens when he does in Vancouver. The road trip. They have been on this road trip now for at least 4 games. They're in Los Angeles tonight. Well, they were. At the time of this recording, the game is now complete. They are playing Anaheim tomorrow to wrap it up. Now, this road trip did not go well so far. The Maple Leafs are having all kinds of problems. Tonight's game was no different than the last 2. They just cannot seem to get things right. They're making all kinds of errors. We'll go into that in a few minutes, but all I have to say is that it just won't stop. And it's getting to the point now where you don't even want to watch them because you know what the outcome is going to be. And the last time I saw this was just before Mike Babcock was fired, where literally every game, at the end of every game, they're skating off with their heads down. No one's winning. The team has no chance. Anyway, this is where we're at right now. And I'm beginning to think that we're looking at a history repeating itself. But so tonight's game, they played the Kings. They lost 4-2. They did score first in this game. They scored in the first period on a power play from John Tavares, which was assisted by Nylander and Marner. It was actually a really nice goal. It was another very typical John Tavares goal. He's getting the real knack again for being in front of the net. He's able to put it in with a tip in or whatever he's got. So that's great news. Looked a little better, but the Leafs again still just didn't have that engagement like they were saying at the end of the first period. They were saying they were just not engaged with to play. They were just not interested, it seemed like, for the first 5 to 8 minutes of the game. They didn't even register a shot until almost 10 minutes into the first. And I mean, they were again, it was all being to the outside. Nobody was driving to the net. Same problems as before. But luckily, they got the goal. Samsonov had some really good saves, so he was able to help them. But anyway, they went into the first intermission with 1-0 lead, which was good. A nice change for once. Two Justin Hall penalties back to back. Justin Hall is not having a good year right now. We'll go into that in a minute. They actually got two power play goals with one within the other. So they ended up getting into a 3-1 lead. They actually got another goal from Kempe. That was the first one, but they scored pretty quick succession at 3:03, 9:03, and 14:40. So they were up 3-1, and just Toronto looked completely discombobulated. They couldn't get things going. They were turning the puck over right, left, and center, which has been a big problem this year. At the end of the period, around 16:58, the fourth line came on, and Pierre Engvall actually scored from David Kampf and Mark Giordano. So ended up making it 3-2. So they thought, okay, we're going into the third period, maybe, but the indications didn't show that Toronto was going to win this game because it's been the same thing over and over again. Anyway, they went into the third period, and pretty much 2 minutes and 11 seconds into the third, Sandin ends up getting burned by Fiala, who has been struggling, by the way, for a while. They've been trying to get a goal, and sure enough, Fiala scores, which seems to be what I've been hearing a lot with these teams on the West Coast these days, is that they've had bad games, they haven't gotten things going on their side, come meet Toronto, and then all of a sudden, all the people that have had problems are solving their issues against the Leafs. So I mean, it's been like that all this whole road trip. But anyway, so then I went up 4-2. Toronto almost tied the game. Marner at the end of the game itself, Marner did a high stick, and it was a glaring high stick. There was no chance that he was going to get that as a goal. Anyway, they thought maybe he'd get a penalty drawn because one of the players actually high stick Marner. But anyway, it didn't work out that way. And of course, Toronto just couldn't get it going. And that was the end of it. So that's how they lost. They had 28 shots to 29. That's what it was. LA had the advantage there. But I don't know where those shots came from. Toronto had no intensity, in my opinion, at all against LA. There was a few moments where they had a little bit of zone time, but in reality, they didn't have very much. Nothing sustained like we're used to, as we've said before. Now, the takeaways from the road trip so far, and this game included. Justin Hall, let's start with him. He, for whatever reason, or this is the way he's always been, his play has been atrocious. He has made mistakes upon mistakes, and he's taking penalties at the wrong time, or just penalties in general, and the Leafs are getting burned on them. And I mean, it's not fair to blame one guy for all of this. But right now, whenever it seems there's a big goal or some kind of major breakdown, he's on the ice when it happens for the defense. Now, the Maple Leafs defense core has been completely put into tatters. They are not able to stop the offensive players at all. They can't do it. They get burned. They get bumped off the puck easily. There's no push. There's absolutely no push against them. There's no grit. They just don't have it. Now they have injuries, but I mean, like Victor Mete and all them, they're good defensemen, but they're not tough. They're that's not their style. And Morgan Rielly right now, I mean, he is struggling mightily. He's trying to do everything. This looks a lot like the Rielly a few years ago, whenever they didn't have anyone else. And he's just trying to do as much as he can. In reality, he's just getting burned. He's trying to make passes that don't work. They're going to have to fix that. Now, my opinion is a trade would be the best, plus getting back Liljegren and maybe someone else. I mean, Muzzin would be nice and all, but Muzzin's not coming back anytime soon, or if at all. But we don't know. That's one problem. The defense is one of the Toronto's biggest issues. They can't get the puck up the ice properly either, which that has been said in reports and news over the last few days. The offensive guys, the only ones that are scoring consistently are the core four guys, and that's it. Everyone else, there's nobody else that's coming down. You don't see Yarnrock on the scoreboard. You don't see Obel on the scoreboard. You don't see any of these. I mean, Pierre Engvall has had one or two, but he's been on a lot of goals scored against as well. Anyway, I just think Toronto's depth scoring has really taken a hit this year with Mikheyev gone and a number of other players gone. There's just a major issue with this team's design. I don't like this design at all. I don't care for Aston Reese. I don't care for Malgin at all. I don't like those guys. I wish they would move them along or just never have brought them in. They're just not performing. I mean, Nick Robertson's playing great, which we all knew he would, and he's just a great up and coming forward. But from the forward perspective, even Matthews, he looks like he's still banged up and hurt. He's not playing to his full steam. Even Marner's out there. He's doing lots of passes, lots of assists, which is great for the Leafs, but he's not engaged as much as he should, in my opinion. Now, as far as goaltending, I mean, Samsonov did all he could tonight. He was basically, again, the defense couldn't stop them. They were always wide open. And I mean, the goalie can only save so many shots. Anyway, I don't blame Samsonov for tonight's loss or any of the losses that he had. He was actually under the weather, apparently, a couple days ago. And Shelgren, again, same thing. Shelgren is doing all he could. I think he could dial in a little better. But again, he's the backup, and that's his role. So the state of the team right now is dire, in my opinion. I think the coach will be fired in the next week if things don't turn around. That's just what I'm seeing. There's no indication of them turning things around anytime soon. Even if Liljegren shows up, I don't think that's going to fix things. I think it's a systemic issue. I think the Maple Leafs have a design flaw in their build right this year. I think Dubas did too much of the mix. He changed it too much. Last year's team was far more deadly than this year. They don't have any sandpaper guys. They don't have any push, as we said, against the other players. They're easy to fight the puck off. Overall, this team right now is the worst I've seen it in a number of years. And it should be better. It shouldn't be worse. We had a 54-win season. We had 115 points. We had a team that took the Stanley Cup champs to a goal in 7 games, and they held the lead of that series a number of times. And now we're watching this nonsense. This is crap. This is nonsense. It shouldn't be happening. The Maple Leafs are better than this. Their best players are absolutely better than this, but their bottom 6 is not helping. The coaching's not absolutely helping, in my opinion. The coaching, I don't know what's going on there. Overall, not impressed at all. And I mean, I'm just a fan. I don't have any vested interest in this team financially or anything. Just overall, just not happy with what I'm seeing. And I really wish the Maple Leafs can get this turned around quickly. I know it's probably too late now in terms of they can't make a major trade and all of a sudden they're better. There's major shifting that needs to be done. And then we don't know how the season's going to shape up. I mean, it's only game 9, but the trends are starting to show. And there's no interest in getting, from the players anyway, any kind of push to get back on track. They keep saying they want to. Oh, I've heard all kinds of talk. Again, this sounds like Babcock all over again. It's the same thing. Well, we need to get better. The defense needs to improve. The forward. Enough with the talk and get rolling. Get it started. Don't get it. Like, enough with the talk. Why can't you make this happen? Okay? Because I honestly believe the Leafs team this year has a major design flaw in it. I don't know where they're going to go. It sounds like an alarmist early thing to say, but it's true. And I don't know. And as a Leafs fan that had high hopes this year, especially after watching last year's amazing team, it's just crushing to watch, to be honest with you. It's just tough. We're all in it. All Leaf fans are in this. We all know. We've been through this before. Still not right. But really, this hurts even more because it drives me crazy to think that they have all this talent and money spent and they can't even put more than 4 games together. And even those 4 games weren't that great to begin with. They won them, but they've only really had 2 full games where they've been complete. Winnipeg and Washington. That's it. The rest of them, all questionable, all had problems. They were all major, and the problems have been progressing. So that's my takeaway. It's been a trying time for the last few weeks to watch this team. But anyway, so I think I'm going to end the video here. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you took some value from it. I mean, we're all watching a Leafs team that's just struggling mightily right now. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a good night.